Hey, my name is Jamie Lee, and I'll be presenting some effective routines, rules, and rituals that promotes social emotional learning. I am a pre-K teacher, and I've just had some training that has really changed the way I look at running my classroom and really affected all aspects of my life. I have four children at home. Uh, Three of them will be out of high school as of May, and I'll still have one in. And I wish I would have known some of these things to do when they were young, but but I'd like to share some of those with you. And it doesn't matter what grade you teach. I've seen presentations from the high school level, just ways, of course, things have to be adapted between pre-K and high school, but there are just ways to deal with kids that really, it really has to change our mindset. Kids come to us who they are with their backgrounds and how their parents have taught them and the ways they deal with them. And so, we have a short amount of time to affect children, but we want them to be able to just handle their emotions because that's going to affect all aspects of their life, no matter how old they are. But before I show you some things, a little bit of background. So, social emotional learning, it is a developmental process, and it affects all of us, whether we're in our 40s or whether we're 4 years old, like the pre-K I teach. But it helps us build healthy relationships, helps us manage our emotions, and make responsible decisions. And according to Doolittle and Jones, social emotional learning involves children's ability and older kids, but children's ability to learn about and manage their own emotions and interactions in ways that benefit themselves and others. And it helps them succeed in the workplace, in school, and so, a little bit of background. Before I implemented some of the things that I learned, I used clip charts because that's what I learned and that's what I observed when I was in my methods in college. Um, I I was raised to where when my parents said it, I did it. There was no conversing, and I still agree with that to an extent. I mean, we have to learn to comply, and follow rules and follow the law in society, but sometimes kids come to us and they say why, and it's sometimes not to be disrespectful. It's just they really don't understand why are we doing what we're doing. So sometimes I punished in my classroom without an explanation. Office referrals, idle threats. If you don't do that, I'm calling your mom or I'm sending you to the office. And one of my coaches told me one time, don't give away your authority. Learn to talk to them and deal with the kids where they are. And also, um, I found that there was a lack of connection sometimes between my students and and between their peers. And sometimes there was a lack of communication, between each other. So uh, I'm going to show you some things before I talk about the things that happened after the implementation. But I went through a program training called Conscious Discipline, and I just thought it was the dumbest thing. I just thought it was so dumb. And I looked at my friends and I said, "Are you kidding me?" But when I started implementing and the consultation method, where the consultant um, they came in and they gave the information to us, and it did a presentation, and then they came to our classrooms and they wanted to see us interacting, and so that kind of held my feet to the fire. But they gave us some tools, and of course, for time's sake, I don't can't show all of them, but one of them is a feelings board. And this has worked so many times. See if I can hold it up where it can be seen. But basically, the kids can view themselves and their goals. Then they can, even 4 year olds can say, I'm upset and I want to feel better. I don't want to be upset anymore. So I ask them that. I'm like, what do you want? Do you want to stay mad? Do you want to stay upset? And they'll say no. Well, I tell them, how do you feel? And then there's some little buttons here. This says, I feel angry. Now they can't read, but they can see that face on there. I feel angry. So I'll have them put that, and we teach them some things. Like, would you like to draw a picture? I know you miss your mama. Okay, that's good you told me that. Would you like to draw mama a picture? And it gets their mind busy and off of throwing a tantrum. Yeah, and they'll say yes. So that acknowledges right there. They learn to acknowledge why they're upset. I miss my mom. Or I didn't go get to see my dad this weekend. So all these kids deal with a lot. And I say, okay, well, you can draw a picture. I'm about to show you some things we do every day in my classroom. It's called star breathing, but there's different kinds. We have some pictures, and they may say, I want to breathe, I want to star breathe. And if, okay, all of us have been in situations where we're like, let me take a deep breath. I don't know about y'all, but it makes me feel better. There's been times on the way home from work, I'm not a panicky, anxious person, but there's been times where I've just been like, gotta get a breath. Well, we just teach our kids that. They're like star breathing, we put our finger on our nose. So we give them options: draw a picture, I love you ritual, sing a song, squeeze a ball. And remember, they're 4. Now, this can be adapted for older kids. Um, just, it does, there's different ways to teach. And it doesn't have to be even within this conscious discipline program, but you know your kids, and you can find ways to get their minds. And I know we're not counselors, but in a way we are. I mean, we're teachers and we wear a lot of hats. But you can find ways to help your kids discuss it. That's that communication. And then, how can we help that? No, we can't solve the problem. I didn't get to see dad, and I can't fix that, but we can talk about it. You can sit in my lap. For older kids, hey, we can have some lunch, or we could. Um, Goodness, it's been a while since I've taught older kids, but and really, y'all, the basis for this is having a relationship with the kids. That's where it's got to start. We have to put aside the fact that, yeah, some of these kids are annoying. We love them, but they get on our nerves. But it um they don't learn from people that they don't like. They don't, they if we're just angry, if we're upset all the time and come in rude, we got to build a relationship with them, just like we have with our families at home. This is our school family, and we've got to try. I mean, where else? Why are we here? Um, I mean, if we don't have that connection with them, they don't want to learn from us. And sometimes it doesn't take much. It's, how's your day? How's your mom? How's your dog? You know what works for your kids. But I'm going to bring the video over here. Also, another thing that I do. Well, let me show the star breathing here. The first one is, okay. Can you see the balloon there? We put our hands on our head and we blow up a balloon. We stick our hands out and we do a drain. We breathe in and breathe out. This is called the pretzel. They just twist their hands, but they breathe in. That's the whole kicker, is they breathe, and then the star breathe. And this is part of our ritual and our routine in pre-K in my classroom every morning. It's part of what we do. Also, one way for our kids to stay connected is to give them a job. Okay, now this is not professional, but I've used this for about 6 years now. And it's hard to see the jobs, but I can tell you some of them. I have 13 students, and that's not a lot for pre-K, but I am a reverse mainstream class, which means I have 8 spots of my 20 spots available for special needs kids with an IEP. But these connections of jobs has changed my classroom and changed my routine. These kids look forward to, they can't read, but they know what the song picker is. They know what the line leader is. They know what the door holder is. There's pictures on along with their pictures. So some of them are star breather. They lead it and we just practice it. The caboose, the table wipers, the cleanup announcer after our center time. They ring that bell. The meteorologist, the smartboard helper, the line leader. And one of the most important ones, and y'all can laugh if you want, but see turtley here. All right, so not everybody has a turtle, but we have a well-wisher in our classroom. So what we do, let me go grab my pen. What we do is when the children are, when they come in the morning, I have a pan says I'm at home, and it has a heart on it. They moved their picture from that to I am at school. And so I have all 13 of my kids today, but let's just say little Johnny was absent. One of our well-wishing job is to take Turtley and take this pan off the wall, and they say, they point to this picture and they say, we miss you, Johnny, and we love you, and blow kisses to Turtley. Now, when little Johnny comes back, guess what he's going to expect? He'll say, where are my turtle kisses? And you wouldn't believe the connections, and that's what parents tell me 9 times out of 10. They say, little Johnny wants to know, did y'all collect turtle kisses? And yes, it's cheesy, but what does that make them feel? It makes them feel connected. They know that they're missed. They know that they're loved. And so but anyway, that's just some of the few things that I do in my classroom. I got rid of my clips because my coach, my first year in
Teachers, pardon the interruption. If you have a reader,
she told me, my coach told me, she said, that clip chart's not going to work. And I said, well, I've been doing it. I did it when I taught kindergarten. Here's what changed my mind. She said, is it changing their behavior? And ooh, that stung because the same kids were on red. When they were on red, it was those kids. Same kids were on purple. And I said, no, ma'am, you're right. They didn't know why they were moving their clip. Now, some people, maybe that'll work, not telling you what to do. But instead of go move your clip when there's an issue, and we do have some serious issues sometimes. And I know that there are sometimes the office has to be involved. I do have some hitters, some biters, some that are not special needs that do that. And then we have to get parents involved, but that's part of it. But it takes 6 to 8 weeks to really get in a routine for us. But the whole clip was, I just took it away. And so I tell parents and I tell the kids at the beginning of the year, I do have a calendar in their folder, and I do put a smiley face in but I put a note when there's issues. And if it's a major issue, I do call the parents, um, but I tell the kids, this is, if let's just say if, something minor like, so and so pokes somebody and won't leave them alone, I'll say, hands to yourself. We have to be safe, and if it's persistent, I'll tell them, you and Miss Jamie are about to sit down and visit. And sometimes it's right when centers begin. So it is almost like a timeout, but I don't call it a timeout. I tell them, I'm like, we're going to sit down. And I do have that luxury. I have some flexibility in here. I know older kids, it's bell to bell. But I tell them, I'm like, did your friend ask you to quit poking them? Yes, ma'am. And I'll say, why did you keep doing it? And then they'll usually give me a reason. And they're very articulate and very intelligent at 4 years old. I don't know if you have children at home or if you're around young kids, but they're smart. But they don't wear their feelings on their sleeve most of the time, and they can take some correction. And they'll tell me why, and I'll say, well, tell me why we shouldn't do that. And they will. And if they can, I'll help them. I'll say, we learn how to keep our hands to ourselves. And then I say, how would you feel if that was you? That's usually the kicker. I'm like, what if they poked you back? What if they pulled your hair? I wouldn't want that. Like, and I hope that never happens, but we have to think. And I don't use the word social emotional, but that kind of goes down to their core. They want to, I try to teach them to treat others like you want to be treated, but I use this voice. I try real hard. I know we all get snappy sometimes, but I'm calm. And I'll tell y'all, one of the basis of these things is controlling our emotions. There are times where we do get snappy, and where I'm like, all right, come on outside, we're going to talk. But if we can stay calm, that disarms kids, especially kids that have some high social emotional needs. They're used to being screamed at. They're used to being taken to the office. I've had several kids just stop and look at me. And I'm like, why'd you do that? Instead of like, why did you do that? Get out of this classroom. I mean, I don't want to be screamed at. And I've done some intentional things, as adults we do, but sometimes we do things without being, like we didn't mean it to be mean, maybe. We're just being snappy. And when people tell me, hey, why'd you do that? it makes me think. So young kids are no exception. They can communicate, but we have to teach them that. We have to teach them, number one, how to be calm, how to stay calm, and then we get down to the core of it. And sometimes it takes a few minutes, but and it takes reminders. It is like dripping water sometimes. That's what I am. I'm like, tell me again why we shouldn't do it. Tell me again why we should not do this. Tell me why we should do this. And it does go smoother. It does. Well, I do a treasure chest, so that's rewards. But it's just very often that I have to involve the office. It's very often. Now it does happen. I'm not going to say it doesn't, because when students when they're violent, and when, especially when they understand, I mean, there does have to be consequences. I, as an adult, can't go out and hit somebody in public without a consequence. So kids need to know that there's consequences, but they also need to know that instead of using our hands, there's ways to communicate. I try not to intervene when my kids, we have free choice centers in here. They have to share. If there's no spots, they have to move somewhere else. But when they say so and so is being rude, my first question is, well, did you talk to them? 9 times out of 10, they turn right around and they go back, and I watch them. I'll say, they'll say, um, you took that out of my hand, and you shouldn't have done that. And the other person, sometimes they'll look at me, but I'll just watch, and they'll say, okay, I'm sorry, I know I shouldn't have done that, but would you please share? Oh, and it's beautiful. I wish I could video my kids and share this, but it's beautiful, and they do learn how to do it. Most children. But anyway, so, again, instead of idle threats, kids know, they see right through it. We got to say what we mean and mean what we say, but we have to teach them, this is what we do, this is why we do it. And then modeling, again, we have rituals, we have procedures, and we also sing good morning, we sing a goodbye song, and um, all those things help those connections. And y'all, they smile and they look forward to it. Again, students have to be explicitly taught how to communicate. Okay, this is how you say it. I have it every day in my classroom. Miss Jamie, they won't share. Okay, did you ask them? I did ask them, Miss Jamie, and I asked them nicely. And so sometimes I look at the other person. I'm like, but did they ask you if you would share? But yes, ma'am, I just got it. I said, okay. Well, tell that person when I'm finished, I'll share with you. And it works. Sometimes it's as smooth as butter. Sometimes it takes a little extra. But teaching and reteaching. Um, and usually by this time of the year, the feelings board isn't needed, and the results are beautiful. But the results are, they take ownership. This is their classroom. Sometimes in the morning time, they'll say it's time for our good morning song, and it's a beautiful thing. This is my 7th year in pre-K, and it's gotten a little more smooth, but they can run this classroom at 4 years old. They know this is what we do next. Hey, we didn't sing our good morning song. Oh, okay, well, somebody lead it. Let's do it. They know their jobs before we even tell them. And anyway, but I have to remind them, and baby, what can you do instead of screaming? What can you do instead of this? I can star breathe. I can balloon breathe. Okay, try it. And they become less and less dependent on us to solve the social issues. And if you think about ourselves trying to go get jobs, like I'm a teacher in a large school, that's about 500 kids. It's large for my parish. I'm expected to get along with my peers. Well, I mean, we had to learn that some along the way. Um, I think I saw something somewhere, and I wish I would have wrote the quote down or found it before my presentation, but we teach students their ABCs. We teach students their sounds. We teach students their numbers. Why do we punish when it comes to behavior, like automatic punishment? Yes, they should know some things coming in, especially when they're older. That yes, they should know how to be kind. But when they don't, how do we as a teacher intervene? We got to back it up sometimes and say, okay, let me show you a better way. Let me model it. Let me show you with my para how we communicate without screaming. It's okay to be in a bad mood. It's okay to be upset. I tell mine every day, I don't mind you crying. I don't mind you being upset. But when you hit when you're upset, that's not being safe. Okay, that's not being safe. Anyway, but my students, they look forward to coming to school. They miss us and they miss their peers when they're absent. And I know we're not here to entertain, but we are here to help them make connections. And I do want to be loved, but but we don't sugarcoat things, and we're very firm, and we stand, but we tell them why. We don't run because we don't want a busted head. We um, we don't get on top of our friends and shove and push because that hurts them. So it happens, and I see it in other grades. And instead of punishing, and yes, I know there's times where there has to be stronger consequences. Instead of punish them, I just encourage each of you to take a step back. And first, we have to calm ourselves down, because if you say you don't get upset, you're fibbing. But we have to calm ourselves down and say, okay, how do I help this child? And sometimes it takes us stepping away just a minute. I did get upset at a student one time, and my parents said, "Oh my goodness, your face," because the student had been kicked out of another school, and she came in here and she hit somebody in the face. But after I calmed myself down and I talked to the student they just I understood why she did it, even though it was not a good reason, and she understood that she cannot do that at school. She cannot, and her parents don't want her kicked out. But I said, "Baby, we don't kick people out of school here, not in pre-K. We don't kick out, but there are consequences for things. But this is a better way. You want friends, and you want we all want to be loved." And that student has done fantastic, fantastic. But it takes some time. Thank you for listening, and I hope that even though I'm pre-K, that you could use some of these things to just further the social emotional development of any age kid. Any age kid, even as adults, we all have to take some time and talk to each other. But find some ways to first. You have to get to know your kids and love your kids, and even though you got to be firm with them, um, they this is their safe space sometimes. And I know that word is thrown around a whole lot, and people roll their eyes. But school is safe for a lot of these kids. It is. This is a place where they should be loved. They should have a firm routine. But the flex is they do take ownership. It's just their classroom. They're here a long time. We're a 4-day week and we have long days. This is their classroom. So I remind them of that. But thank you so much. And I hope that some of these things would help some of y'all.